안녕하세요 여러분, 이 채널은 한국어입니다. 방문해주셔서 감사합니다. Welcome to the first video in this 한국어 playlist. There's such a wide variety of resources out there that you could use to study Korean, and if you're a total beginner to Korean language study, it can be near impossible to figure out where to begin. How do you even choose which resources are the best ones for you? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you my 10 most used resources for learning Korean. If you're a complete beginner looking for a few tips on where to begin and you think this information will be useful to you, hit the subscribe button and keep on watching. We're going to start with the free resources, and these are in no particular order, but the first one I'm going to talk about is the Talk to Me in Korean podcasts. This is literally where I started learning Korean. I really like these podcasts because one, they're free. Two, they come with PDF files. So each lesson, each episode of the podcast comes with a PDF, so you can follow along if you like to read along with the lesson. There are two hosts, and I think because their banter back and forth is so cute and also like really funny, they make fun of each other and stuff. I think because it's in the form of an actual conversation, that for some reason helped me retain the information better than if I were to like read it. I think that is a good resource that you might want to check out if you haven't already. Number 2, Naver Dictionary and PAPAGO Translator. So these are actually two different resources, but in my opinion, they both go hand in hand. You will need both. The general consensus is if you need a translator to help you learn Korean, do not use Google Translate. I don't know what exactly is wrong with it, but it doesn't really work that well. Papago is way better. That being said, Papago will, whatever you put into the translator, it will try to translate a one-to-one sentence for you. So it works, but it works slightly too well sometimes. Like I've put in sentences, even using words that I knew in Korean, and it made sense in English, but because Korean doesn't have the same sentence, they wouldn't word it in that way. The sentence doesn't really make sense to them. As for the Naver Dictionary, it looks intimidating when you open it, and it can feel kind of convoluted, but this tool is essential to helping you learn Korean. If you want to figure out specific vocabulary words, or if you see a word and you don't know what it means, you could just pop it into the dictionary. That's what a dictionary does. Duh. The dictionary will give you the different nuanced meanings of the word, and also if you scroll down, it'll show you examples from VLive where idols have used this word in a sentence, and it'll tell you basically like how it's being used. Number 3, Korean entertainment. There are, of course, different types of entertainment, and I like to use each one differently. So, like, my coworker introduced me to Korean Peppa Pig. You may not like cartoons, you may not like children's shows, but the cool thing about using a show like Peppa Pig to learn Korean is that a lot of vocabulary is repeated often. So, for example, the family goes out to the grocery store, and Papa Pig wants, I don't know, mango cake. I don't know that mango cake is a thing, but just go with me here. So Papa Pig says he wants mango cake, right? And they're in the store, and Mama Pig is telling him, like, you don't need mango cake. You're not supposed to be having sugar. You don't need it. But because the baby is there, now the baby is hearing them talking about mango cake, and he really wants it now. So he might start chanting mango cake, whatever the Korean version of mango cake would be. And by this time, now you've heard it so many times that you know how to say mango and cake. That's essentially the idea. YouTube videos. I really like watching YouTube videos by native Korean speakers. Specifically, my favorite ones are the ASMR videos because they're, I learn a lot of vocabulary from them, and even, certain phrases, especially if they're doing like a role play kind of ASMR. There's no music in the background. There really is no distracting sound other than the sound that they're making themselves, which usually I feel like either they don't talk while they're doing that, or the sound is, there is no other sound, so it's not very distracting. As an example, this is a video by BABZI ASMR. He's role-playing as a cranial doctor. In this particular scene, one of the tests that he's giving is to turn your head from left to right. I did not know how to say left and right before I watched this video. Here we have another scene where he's testing your sense of smell. You learn words like coffee and mint, and other vocabulary words from videos like this. The link to his video will be in the description box below, and I suggest watching videos, no matter what type of YouTube video you watch, I would suggest selecting videos that have both English and Korean subtitles. Korean music. Once you learn Hangul, you'll be able to start reading Korean. You'll start recognizing the syllables for each word, and you'll be able to learn your favorite songs. Granted, this isn't super great for learning how to actually speak Korean because most songs are written poetically, or, you know, they're written as if the singer is talking to a significant other, so they might be using slang and stuff, which could get you in a lot of trouble depending on who you're talking to. So learning Korean with songs isn't particularly great, but you can learn how to read, and also pronunciation. I think it's great for pronunciation. My advice when using this method would be to look up the Korean lyrics for the song, listen to the song, and highlight or take note of the words that sound familiar to you, that you hear often, and then highlight the words that you've never heard before that mean nothing to you, and then look those up later. Number 4, GOBILLY Korean's YouTube channel. This man has a lot of videos on his channel, but the ones that I find most helpful are his 2-hour live streams. He essentially does a grammar lesson in like a 2-hour live stream. He does have versions of those live streams cut down into like 13 minutes. I personally get more value out of the whole thing because people are asking questions and he's answering them. And I like the pacing of his live streams. I'm able to actually take notes with his live stream, and I find it easy to understand. Side note, a lot of people will say that the best way to learn Korean is to learn from a native Korean speaker. For a lot of people that may be true. I find, for me personally, I find it easier to learn at least grammar and stuff from people that are not native, just because maybe it's the accent, but I can hear every syllable that's being said by a non-native Korean speaker. Whereas with Korean speakers, a lot of times, even when they're trying to speak slowly, they speak too fast, and I just can't pick up certain sounds. Also, I think because someone that's not native has gone through the gone through the process of learning Korean and figuring out the nuance of different words and phrases and stuff, they might better be able to explain to me why a certain rule is a certain way or how to equate that to English. Whereas like for native Korean speakers, a lot of times they'll tell you what the rule is, but they don't know why. Like they don't know why. And maybe that's not important. Hopefully this is probably better. If you're the type of learner who, you know, you just are told a thing and you can retain it, great. I'm not that kind of person. I kind of need a reason why this thing works for me to remember it. Also, one thing you'll notice is that whenever you start going to like language exchanges and you start asking native Korean speakers certain things, you'll get conflicting answers about the same thing. Maybe it's, you know, the same thing as it is here, where someone from New York won't say something the same way that someone from like Arkansas will. Don't know, but that's just something that you'll figure out on your own, and you'll just have to figure out how to navigate that. Number 5, howtostudykorean.com. I'm still trying to figure this website out, but I'm including it in this list just because that website is chock full of so much information. When you go to one of the pages, it's got vocabulary, like a long list of vocabulary. It goes into detail about how to use each grammar point. You can search the type of, you know, grammar point you're looking for. It's a great tool, and somebody that I know who started learning Korean after me is now way ahead of me because she started using this website. So, you know, if you're, again, the type of learner or the type of student, I guess, that benefits from reading a thing and internalizing what it says, it might work out really well for you. I learn better when someone tells me something. So I'm still trying to figure it out because, again, there's a lot of information on that website, and a lot of different sections. Someone from any level of Korean can use it. I'm still trying to figure it out. Number 6, scripting. I think scripting is great because you learn new vocabulary and Korean phrases that you will probably use regularly because you're essentially speaking in your own voice. I plan to make a detailed video on how I used Naver Dictionary and PAPAGO Translator to script videos, as well as how I get my work checked. But essentially, I write out a script in English, use Naver and PAPAGO to put it into Korean. I get a friend to check my work, or go to an app like HelloTalk and have sentences checked, rehearse it, record it. There you go, you got a scripted video. Here is an example of a scripted video that I did. It's not very long. It'll be linked in the cards as well as down in the description below if you would like to check that out. But yeah, when you start learning new words, I would suggest trying to make your own sentences, aka make a script. Number 7, as I just mentioned, HelloTalk/friends. It is really important to gain native Korean language partners, and make new friends, because the Korean language is always evolving. It seems like native Korean speakers are constantly finding new ways to say things or new ways to shorten words and phrases that they currently use. And oftentimes, you could look something up in the dictionary. You could look up a word in the dictionary and then use it on a native speaker and get corrected. Like, I remember one time I went to a language exchange, right? And the topic for the language exchange was exercise. So I went into PAPAGO and I looked up the word for treadmill. I don't remember what the word was. And I wrote out what I wanted to say. I was so excited. I was like feeling myself. I got to the language exchange and I said the sentence. Dude had no idea what I was talking about. He had no idea what I was talking about. And then I wrote down the word because I was like, maybe I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. I write it down, show it to him. He was like, what word is that? And I was like, it's treadmill. He's like, that's not treadmill. We just say treadmill. You'll notice that a lot. There's a lot of Konglish, basically Korean. Well, they're English words that sound Korean, or with a Korean accent, I guess. And he was like, where did you get this word from? And I was like, I got it from the dictionary. And he legit was like, you didn't get this from the dictionary. In front of him, I looked it up in Naver, and he was like, that's old. We don't use that word. We just say treadmill. And I was like, okay. My little bubble was burst. It was fine. You probably know by now, but if you don't, HelloTalk is an app that you can post questions and find language partners. And I think they have every language. Don't quote me on that. They definitely have Korean. So you can find people to communicate with. You can ask questions. You can help other people with their English or, whatever language you speak. They have a free version that seems to work well, but they also have the paid versions. I'm not sure what the difference is between the two. If you'd like to see a video on the differences, let me know and I will make a video about it. So that's it for the free resources. Here's a few paid ones. Korean Grammar for Speaking 2. This is a really easy to follow, comprehensive book written by Sung Won. I bought it on Kindle through Amazon, and this is the second edition. There is a first edition that for some reason is being held for review on Amazon. I'm not sure why, but I have a friend that has the first book and he's used it and it's worked well for him. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, but the second one seems to be fine. And if you want to know how to say a certain phrase, it's easy to find that grammar point in the book. It lists plenty of examples for each grammar point, so I think it'll be a very helpful tool for you. Number 9, PIMSLEUR. Totally gonna sound like an ad right now, but I love PIMSLEUR. I think it's like $20 a month, but I believe you can get like a 7-day, or is it 14? You can get a free trial to check it out. The thing about PIMSLEUR though is that it's all audio. So if you're looking for, a resource that's gonna help you spell or, teach you how to write something, PIMSLEUR is not gonna help you. But if you just wanna learn how to speak Korean, you wanna learn how to be able to say, certain words, like certain phrases. Maybe you plan to go to Korea and you need to be able to get around, or maybe you just, for fun, you just want to learn a few, not a few, they have like 3 units. PIMSLEUR is a great resource. I love PIMSLEUR. I love it. It's really cool because they'll start each individual lesson with like a short conversation in Korean, and then they'll go into teaching you how to, say certain things. For certain words, they'll pronounce it from back to front. That does help me learn and retain how to say a word better than trying to learn it from front to back. Don't know why, but it works. I love PIMSLEUR. And number 10, get yourself a tutor. If you're able to afford a tutor, I honestly think it is a great resource to use if you have the means. I think a tutor is not only great for teaching you how to speak Korean, but also keeping you motivated to do the work and keep learning. I met my tutor on meetup.com. His name is Carl, and he runs a donation-based Korean as a second language study group. He's the one who taught me Hangul, and I learned a lot of vocabulary and a lot of grammar points from him. I think the other cool thing about using a tutor is that you learn a lot of vocabulary that you wouldn't ordinarily see in like a beginner resource. A lot of times when learning a grammar point, even if it's super beginner, the tutor will make up sentences to help you learn, and in doing that you learn a lot of new vocabulary that you may not have learned otherwise. There are apps like italki where you could hire a tutor/teacher to help you. I think the difference between hiring someone from like italki versus like a Carl is that I believe on italki, at least some of the professors, at least some of the teachers on that app are certified. They're actual teachers, but that could also get kind of pricey. If you have the means, maybe that'd be the best choice for you. The other cool thing about investing in a tutor is that oftentimes if you're speaking to a native Korean and you guys are language partners, oftentimes you both will just kind of default into English because it's easier to explain things, or because the native speaker wants to learn English so much, a lot of times it just ends up defaulting into English. Whereas with a tutor, you're paying them literally to speak to you in Korean, to teach you Korean. As I mentioned, Carl's meetup is donation based, and he is a really good tutor. So if you're really interested in learning Korean, I will leave the link to his meetup in the description box below. If you've made it this far, I have a bonus tip for you. Number 11, 90-day Korean. I love 90-day Korean. They have a website as well as an app. When I was using 90-day Korean, I absolutely loved it. It's super easy to read. The way they explain things are, again, kind of like with the Talk to Me in Korean podcast, super cute. For example, when they talk about the levels of speech, they describe them as like the stuffy tuxedo version versus like, the blazer casual, kind of like things like that really help you remember certain information. When they have like exercises when they talk about vocabulary. Again, the letters are really big, they're easy to read, it's easier to retain information. That website, 90-day Korean, helped me a lot. I think that if you are diligent, if you are really, if you have the time, I would suggest, and I think they might also have a free trial. Pretty sure they do. So look them up. The link is also in the description below. I would check it out if I were you. Super helpful, really cute website, and yeah, I think it's a really good resource. Before we end out this video, let's just get this out the way now. You will need to learn Hangul, and you'll thank yourself for learning it from the start. So in the next video, I'm going to be teaching you, hopefully you'll learn from me, how to read Hangul. It looks intimidating, but I promise you, within a day, you can learn how to read Korean words. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe for more. Please share it with anyone you think might find it interesting. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I will see you in the next video. 안녕히 가세요 and happy studying.